The big question today, after yesterday, is what is next? That's the question a lot of Canadians are asking themselves after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his resignation yesterday. Now, Green Party leader Elizabeth May has had a front row seat to Trudeau's ascension into politics, or in politics, first as a Montreal area MP and then Liberal leader, and then off he went to the PM's office. Well, Elizabeth May joins us on the line this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Stephen. I'll add a belated Happy New Year to the one
Well,
you just
thank you very
done.
much, and I will do the same. Safe to say, absolutely nobody surprised by yesterday's news. Maybe a little bit of, maybe a little bit of surprise about the timing of it, but still, your reaction when you heard the actual words come out of his mouth.
Well, as you say, I mean, I put in my public statement that it had been like a slow motion train wreck for some time, so it had the air of inevitability about it. But there were elements that I didn't expect. I didn't expect a prorogation till March 24th. And the lack of clarity around what happens next is really up to the Liberal Party board of directors to decide how quickly they think they can replace Justin Trudeau as Liberal leader. His resignation takes effect when the next Liberal leader is in place. And the question around how quickly we can move to a no confidence vote, given that after prorogation, there's generally a speech from the throne. There are usually a couple of confidence votes that may or may not trigger an election, depending on what the country is going through by the end of March, since Donald Trump is re-inaugurated January 20th. There's still some hanging uncertainties.
Wait, well, and that's it. I mean, a lot of people have talked about the timing of this. I'm sure. Well, I don't know. Was there worse timing possible?
Oh, I'm sure there's always worse, but one always hopes for better. Look,
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, there's a lot of things that are out of Justin Trudeau's control. We could be looking at an incoming President Kamala Harris and thinking, well, Justin Trudeau's perfect to greet a new U.S. president who used to go to school in Montreal.
Yeah.
That's not what we're facing. We're facing a U.S. president who has inexplicably decided to start his next term with a round of Canada bashing and proclaiming that he wants to seize parts of other countries. This is truly bizarre and unhelpful, to put it mildly, from our single largest trading partner. We're also their largest trading partner. And the threat of the tariffs is not smart for the US economy and obviously could be very damaging for our economy. And I I consider myself, if you ask me, I'm Team Canada. We'll do whatever it takes to try to talk Trump out of this or put together the kind of response as a
Hmm.
country, not as a party, that makes him back off. Those things are still possible, even in a government where the prime minister is on an egg timer in terms of how much longer
Right.
he'll be continuing as prime minister.
You have commented on the way Trudeau handled Chrystia Freeland's resignation from cabinet. I'm curious about what you thought of his speech when he said, this is a quote, "This country deserves a real choice in the next election. It has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election." What do you think that was a reference to?
Oh, look, he didn't just handle her resignation, he precipitated her
Yeah.
resignation. It still strikes me as just appallingly off the charts bad judgment to decide to tell someone who's brilliant and has been at his side as cabinet minister. He recruited her from where she was living and working in Manhattan way back to get her to run for Bob Ray's seat in the by-election. Speaking of people who sat with me in the back corner of Parliament, Chrystia Freeland, when she was first elected, sat one seat away from me, so I could try to give her pointers on how to handle the appalling heckling she was getting the first time she ever took the floor. It's appalling that he would tell her on a Friday on a Zoom call, "I'm going to be removing you as Minister of Finance, but first I want you to go through with giving the fall economic statement on Monday." He has no one to blame but himself for how badly that damaged his leadership. And the way she resigned suggests to me that she's ready to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party, having been really her resignation is the key event that changed his, I think, wrong-headed determination to stay as Liberal leader and stay as prime minister into the next election. That change up has implications for all the parties. I'm sure that the conservative spin doctors are having their own little meltdowns because everything about their campaign was we all hate Justin Trudeau so much,
Yeah.
rather than look at the wonderful things we're putting in the front window of what the Conservative Party will bring you. So it throws uncertainty into everything. But I felt that when he said it the way he said it, Stephen, frankly, it was self-serving. It was not an ennobling speech of resignation,
No.
but it was overdue.
And when the dust settles, how would you grade his time as prime minister?
It's a mixed record. The worst of it are, in large neon flashing letters, broken promises, particularly that 2015 will be the last election under first past the post. I don't think he would have won a majority government if he hadn't made that promise, for which he had no regard at all. We worked hard on the special committee of parliamentarians to deliver a proposal for proportional representation, which was at his direction and part of the speech from the throne. Never mind, that was a huge broken promise. So was his promise that Kinder Morgan's pipeline approval process was so flawed that one could never approve that pipeline. And then when Kinder Morgan took the money and ran laughing all the way to the bank, we did the inexplicable thing of buying the pipeline and spending $34 billion to build it. So that's why Greens haven't voted confidence in the Liberals since then. That said, he did deliver a steady hand through the COVID pandemic, which no one could have predicted. We had per capita half the death rate of that in the United States. That's not nothing. He did deliver, expanding our healthcare system to dental care and bringing back what had been on the agenda for a long time of available early childhood education and affordable childcare, among other achievements. But the broken promises and the achievements, on weighing them on scales, I don't know what history will make of his
Mm.
legacy. Bringing in medical assistance in dying, another very difficult issue, and one stick handled by two brilliant ministers, Jane Philpott, who was former Minister of Health,
Yep.
and Jody Wilson-Raybould as Minister of Justice. They were the ones who delivered that. And of course, speaking of brilliant women who resigned from his cabinet, these were spectacular failures of his own making to lose such strong and people of great integrity who served on his cabinet.
I'm looking at a couple of polls here, Elizabeth. The last CBC poll a few weeks ago said the Conservative would secure a landslide majority government if an election, with the Liberals in danger of falling into third behind the Bloc Québécois, even fourth behind the NDP in the seat count. There's a brand new poll out this morning from Mario Canseco of Research Co. That says since August, Conservative popularity has grown from 40% to 47% among decided voters in Canada. It does seem as though the inevitability is that the Conservatives will form the next government. Whether it's majority or minority is the only question.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, as leader of the Green Party of Canada, I'm looking forward to electing a larger Green Party caucus. We have MPs across the country, candidates that I'm feeling, well, one never feels overconfident about how many Greens we're going to elect, but certainly a much larger caucus than we've had in the past. And our goal is always working across party lines to make Parliament work better. So I'm hoping for a minority Parliament where we're able to keep either of the large parties from taking over based on not getting a true majority of the popular vote, but skewing the results, again, ironically, through first past the post, to what is called by academics in political science the false majority, where a party like the Conservatives under Stephen Harper don't get a majority of the votes, but get a majority of the seats. And it's because of first past the post that we could even be talking about the Bloc Québécois getting official opposition without obviously not a single candidate runs for the Bloc Québécois who isn't representing a Quebec riding. First past the post contributes to polarization and contributes to regional inequalities within governments and within cabinets. But that's down to Justin Trudeau promising one thing and doing another. That the Liberals are still, I mean, they always take the NDP did the same to us here in BC. If you say you're going to get rid of first past the post, someone in your backroom spin doctors is saying, yeah, the system's unfair. But next time we'll be the lucky ones who benefit from that unfairness. So yeah, we've got in terms of the next election, it's anybody's bet, but I'm just hoping against hope that neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives win a false majority.
Elizabeth, we're just out of time, just about out of time, but I just want to ask you about something you said earlier, which is when we talk about the United States, and, I mean, here we have the second presidency of Donald Trump looming. He'll be inaugurated on January 20th when Parliament here is prorogued, which is not ideal, to say the least. But as you said, you have an incoming U.S. president who talks or jokes about seizing parts of other countries, and does that kind of talk worry you legitimately? I mean, news this morning that Don Jr. is on his way to Greenland, and just the kind of relentless Canada bashing that you just mentioned that we've heard since the beginning. What do you think is behind all of that?
Well, reading people who observe Donald Trump as deal maker, he's not someone who has any kind of sense of the world and the role of trade liberalization, a rules based world order. He actually is a mercantilist who thinks he loses if the US buys more stuff from us than we buy from them. That's not a subsidy. His understanding of basics is appallingly ignorant. Now, this is a problem for us because if he wants to bring in 25% tariffs on everything from Canada, that will hurt our economy badly. It'll also hurt the US economy. So one has to hope against hope that these rantings of seizing Greenland or the Panama Canal or thinking for 1 minute that proud Canadians would rather be living in the United States as a 51st state. This is insulting. And I recently pointed out, well, how about this, Donald Trump? We'll take California off your hands and Oregon and Washington too. I mean, it's time to stand up to Trump and point out we're your best friend, we're your best neighbor, and have been historically forever. So readjust your thinking to take into account the real world of how multilateralism works. The world is a dangerous place. Don't make Vladimir Putin your friend and Canada your enemy.
All right. Elizabeth May, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Stephen.
you. You take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
That's Elizabeth May, leader of the Green Party and member of Parliament for Saanich Gulf Island.